Lawsuit news, more Netflix lawsuit news. All right, this is actually the third time I have discussed a lawsuit involving Netflix. The first one was when that guy was trying to sue the Duffer Brothers for Stranger Things. I did a full breakdown on why he really didn't have much leg to stand on there. Apparently, ultimately, I don't know what's happening in that. I don't know if the lawsuit's actually gone through, but the current thing with that is that he had reduced his terms. Originally, he wanted the show completely removed from Netflix, but after the massive backlash from all the Stranger Things fans, that did not end up happening. And as I'm sure many of you are aware, Stranger Things has been continuing on. Third season is slated for this summer, and everything is going well there. But the second one was, of course, the Sabrina lawsuit, which was more so with Warner Brothers than Netflix. Netflix just kind of widely distributes it. Warner Brothers was producing it. I know in that case there ended up being a settlement because they realized that, we used a copyrighted image, and today we are dealing with the third one that I'm at least aware of. I'm sure there's many more, but the third one that I'm going to be talking about, where, again, I do think the lawsuit has some legs to stand on. We were talking about the lawsuit against Black Mirror's movie Bandersnatch and Choose Co., who now owns the Choose Your Own Adventure book series. And Bandersnatch, for those of you who don't know, is the new Netflix interactive Choose Your Own Path, Destiny, whatever you want to call it, Black Mirror film, where you actually choose different options, different paths, different responses, different reactions to situations as you're watching the movie, which ultimately affects the outcome of the movie. The creators have said that there are so many more endings than the average person is getting. There are secret endings that are like very difficult to unlock, and certain things that even the creators wouldn't even remember how to recreate. So there's actually a lot of like rewatchability or replayability, just different things that you can do through the film to just get different endings, different options, and just really fun things like that. Now, the interesting thing about that is that the original owner of the Choose Your Own Adventure title and the book series itself actually just let the copyright on the title lapse, and then Choose Co. bought it out. They don't reproduce the old books that were made originally, but they do make new ones under that title, and they're actually suing because Bandersnatch and Netflix used the title, specifically, they mentioned that it was a Choose Your Own Adventure book in the movie, which they're saying is actually a violation of their copyright. They don't own the concept of making movies or shows or books or anything like that where you can choose your own adventure. And I know when I was growing up, you could do it with like Goosebump books, and I know there's a lot of video games that depending on what options you pick, it leads you down different directions. I think a lot of kids shows and stuff have done stuff like this on Netflix, for example, and just other options like that. And I'm sure a bunch of other kids' books have employed this in some way. It's not new, and that's why a lot of people thought that the whole thing was just ridiculous. They're like, you can't own the concept of like a choose your own adventure. They don't own that, and you can't trademark that, but you can trademark the title. It's like, you can't trademark the concept of making a bunch of books aimed at children that involve kind of like horror stories, but you can't call them Goosebumps because the name Goosebumps is trademarked. Now, I think they might be going a little bit overboard in how they're explaining out the lawsuit. For one, they said that Netflix actually approached them asking if they could just use the term Choose Your Own Adventure in the movie, and they never got an answer. They never answered Netflix. They didn't give permission to do this to Netflix, which is why I find this whole thing really interesting. You think Netflix would just be like, okay, just switch it to Choose Your Own Destiny or choice-based ending or literally anything. Literally, this is something that you can bypass just by changing just a couple words, and then you're in the clear. So why did they keep it with Choose Your Own Adventure? There clearly had to have been a ton of like shoots for this because they had to shoot all the different possible endings, all the different scenarios. It really would have just taken cutting off of his face when he said the word adventure if it was so far down the road that they had filmed it, and then just dubbing in the word like Destiny or something else. It really wouldn't have been that hard to make it work. But what they're saying is that Netflix is specifically trying to cash in on the nostalgia of the 80s and 90s to encourage people to watch it, which I don't really think, like, I don't have any attachment to the Choose Your Own Adventure series. I just thought the concept of choosing your own adventure while watching a movie was really cool. Going to see movies that have different endings depending on where you are is not completely unheard of. Like most recently, the Unfriended Dark Web movie had different endings depending on when you saw it, which showing you saw it, where you saw it. all that kind of stuff. I think there was like 2 different endings you could have possibly got. But then adding that extra dimension of you being in control of what's happening while watching a movie versus playing a video game or reading a book was really cool. And that's why people were interested in doing it. I don't think anybody was interested in it because they were linking it in their head with the Choose Your Own Adventure series. People were just like, oh man, Black Mirror does all sorts of crazy, wacky stuff. Let's get on board with this. And that's how I saw it. But Shannon Gilligan, the co-founder and the publisher of Choose Co, said that they've received an unprecedented amount of outreach from people who believed we were associated with the creation of this film, including parents who were concerned that we had aligned the Choose Your Own Adventure brand they knew and loved with content that surprised and offended them. So their specific thing is not only did they use their copyrighted title in the Bandersnatch script and potentially in the marketing, it's that the Black Mirror content itself is just really dark, messed up, disturbing, and not something that they want their like family-friendly Choose Your Own Adventure title associated with, which is fine. They have the right to do that. I don't actually know if they've received an unprecedented amount of outreach from people because most people wouldn't even realize that the concept of Choose Your Own Adventure would be copyrighted. I didn't even realize that there was an actual Choose Your Own Adventure company until I saw this. And when I first saw this, I was like, that's ridiculous. But now I'm like, okay, technically it's not ridiculous. If they actually own that title in correlation with this kind of content, they probably do have something to stand on if they truly believe that it's like, for 1, infringing on their trademark, 2, making money off of their trademark, and 3, hurting their trademark by associating something really dark and kind of messed up and twisted. If you've seen Bandersnatch, you know what I mean. Or even if you've seen Black Mirror in general, you know exactly what I mean, and something like the Choose Your Own Adventure franchise. Now, Netflix hasn't officially issued a statement on this, but I think they might be able to cover themselves because they don't actually try to link the 2 together. They just say the term Choose Your Own Adventure because it is, and I think the thing is that the book that's in the movie is called Bandersnatch, and the protagonist actually refers to it as a Choose Your Own Adventure book, which makes it seem, in layman's ways, if you actually look at the cover, it doesn't say Choose Your Own Adventure anywhere on the cover, but I guess to the average person watching it, or just people not paying attention, would potentially associate it with a Choose Your Own Adventure brand. If you're saying it's a Choose Your Own Adventure book, somebody might read that as, oh, it's part of the Choose Your Own Adventure series, whereas I took it as, oh, it's a book where you choose your own adventure. So I guess depending on what your brain associates that like string of words with is what matters. And at the end of the day, all that matters is the fact that they own the trademark and the license on the term Choose Your Own Adventure. And then on top of that, Netflix owns the rights to potentially develop a Choose Your Own Adventure television series, so that by Netflix using the concept and the term for their Black Mirror Bandersnatch film, they're illegally benefiting from the perceived connection and association with the brand name, as I mentioned before, and potentially removing the value from Fox going forward with that story. And we kind of saw something similar to that with the whole, with all of the Conjuring movies, that technically a different studio owned the exclusive publishing rights to the Warren story, but then Warner just went ahead and made it anyways. But it's kind of a similar situation to that, I guess they're trying to make the argument for. And I guess this isn't the first time they've defended the brand. I guess they'd previously sued Chrysler for using the Choose Your Own Adventure slogan when they were advertising Jeeps. And as far as I know, that led to a settlement. I'm sure this is also going to lead to some kind of settlement, and they might have to like dub in a different word there, because in their mind, there's that negative association between what they're doing and what their series is. And if for some reason there actually were that many parents coming forward being very offended, somehow linking the 2 things, for 1, you had to have watched it yourself to be offended. I just can't imagine that many people would have come forward actually thinking that they were associated. But regardless, at the end of the day, if they want to make that argument, they can. Even without anybody coming forward, they could still rightfully make the argument that it's tarnishing their brand, that it's hurting their brand recognition, and that it's actually infringing on their rights, and it's causing reputational harm to them. They have full rights to make that argument. So yeah, we're just gonna have to wait to see what happens. I'm assuming this is gonna end in a settlement because they do rightfully own the Choose Your Own Adventure moniker, title, listing out, and you might see some change to Bandersnatch. They might actually have to edit in something. Luckily, again, with their platform, they'll have a fairly easy time doing that. It's not like it's network television, where a process like that would probably be a lot more difficult. This is a pretty simple fix if they have to do it. Hopefully the whole thing doesn't get deleted, because it it is a really cool thing. I didn't think it was like the most amazing movie in the world, but it was still just a very cool experience, and I would like to see Netflix and other things kind of dabble into this more in the future. It kind of makes it a little bit more interactive, a little bit more interesting for the viewing audience. I think it'd be really cool if theaters started getting little like press buttons, or like you could do it from your phone. You would vote from your, I guess now nobody wants you on your phone in a movie, but you know what I mean? Just something like that where like as you're watching it, it would just be like crowd consensus. I think that'd be pretty cool. I don't know if you could ever really get it to work, but I think it's a really cool concept. I want them to keep going down it, and it would really suck if the whole thing just kind of goes up in smoke because they chose to use the term choose your own adventure in the movie, even though they're clearly not referring to the choose your own adventure book franchise. But this is the purpose of copyrights. This is the purpose of trademarks. So that is going to do it for today's video. Thank you all so much for watching. Let me know what you guys are thinking in the comment section down below, and we'll catch you all later.